The forgotten signal, the stars stretched like silver dust across the endless black sky. Ethan sat inside his small spaceship, staring at the quiet void around him. He was tired from long weeks of travel, moving from one lonely star system to another. Explorers like him often felt the silence of space pressing on their minds, but Ethan had learned to live with it. Tonight, however, something felt different. The air inside the cabin was still, almost heavy, as if the universe was holding its breath. Ethan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He was thinking of home, the warm blue oceans of Earth, the sound of waves hitting the shore, the laughter of people. But those were far behind him now, hundreds of light years away. He had chosen this path, searching the edges of the galaxy, chasing rumors of lost stations and forgotten signals. Most days he found nothing, only empty planets and cold silence. But explorers lived for the chance that one day they would hear something new, something impossible. Then it happened. The ship's computer beeped, breaking the silence. Ethan straightened quickly, eyes locked on the glowing screen. A signal, faint, broken, but real. The computer tried to decode it, static filling the cabin. And then, through the broken noise, came a voice, soft, almost like a whisper. "You never forgot me, human." Ethan froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He sat very still, listening, unsure if his mind was playing tricks. The voice continued, faint but clear. "And I always remembered you." His mouth went dry. This was no ordinary signal, no random code from space. It was a voice speaking directly to him, and it sounded strange, alien, but also familiar in a way he could not explain. He felt as if the voice knew him, knew his story, knew his soul, but how could that be when he had never been here before? "Computer, repeat the mess." "Sage," he ordered. The computer obeyed, replaying the signal. Again the words came, soft and haunting. "You never forgot me, human, and I always remembered you." Ethan shivered. He did not know this voice, yet it felt like something buried deep in memory, as if an old dream had suddenly spoken back to him. He checked the origin of the signal. His screen showed strange coordinates pointing toward a dark area of space. Ethan's eyes narrowed. It was the dead zone. Every pilot knew the stories of the dead zone. Ships that went in never came back. It was a forbidden place, a graveyard of lost explorers. The stories warned of strange energy fields, madness, even alien traps. No one truly knew what lay inside. But now the signal was calling from there. Ethan's hands shook slightly on the controls. Logic told him to turn back, to mark the coordinates and leave. But his heart, restless and hungry for truth, told him to go. The voice was not random. It had spoken directly to him, and the way it said the word, human, like a memory, like recognition, made his chest tighten. He thought of the silence of space, the endless loneliness. Maybe this was the reason he had traveled so far. Maybe this was what explorers like him were meant to find. He whispered to himself, "What if this is the discovery that changes everything?" He set his course toward the dead zone. The ship hummed as the engines powered up. Stars stretched into long white lines as he jumped to faster than light speed. Yet even in the rush of movement, he could still hear the words echoing in his head. "You never forgot me, human, and I always remembered you." Hours passed as the ship cut through the void. Ethan tried to distract himself by checking the systems, but no matter what he did, the words stayed with him. He began to wonder, who was speaking? Was it an alien intelligence? Was it a machine? Or could it be anything far stranger? The thought both thrilled and terrified him. Finally, the ship slowed, arriving at the edge of the dead zone. The stars here looked wrong, twisted, like reflections in broken glass. The darkness seemed thicker, heavier, like it wanted to swallow everything that entered. Ethan stared at the view, his chest tight with fear. The computer gave a sharp warning. "Caution! Dangerous anomaly detected." Ethan ignored it, leaning closer to the glass. Then, as if answering his arrival, the signal grew louder, the same voice, but stronger now, repeating the same haunting words. "You never forgot me, human, and I always remembered you." Ethan felt his breath catch. The voice was waiting for him, pulling him deeper. He placed his hand on the throttle, ready to enter. The cabin lights flickered once, like a shiver running through the ship. The silence broke again as the computer spoke in a cold, mechanical tone. Warning. The signal originates from deep inside the dead zone. No records of any human expedition ever returning. Ethan swallowed hard, staring at the swirling dark ahead. Every story, every warning told him this was madness. But deep inside, something stronger than fear was rising. Curiosity, destiny, maybe even recognition. The voice had called him, and he could not turn away now. His fingers tightened on the controls. The engines roared softly as the ship pushed forward. The black swallowed him, and the last light of normal space vanished behind. Ethan whispered to himself, almost like a promise, "I will find you." And in the silence of the dead zone, the voice whispered back, "I have always been waiting." The dead zone mystery. The ship crossed the threshold of the dead zone. Instantly, Ethan felt the change. The stars outside seemed to bend unnaturally, twisting and stretching like liquid light. The darkness was no longer empty. It was alive, pressing against the glass of his cockpit. His instruments flick, red, numbers shifting and jumping as if the universe itself was broken here. The computer repeated in its flat, lifeless tone, "Warning, navigation systems unreliable. Proceed with caution." But Ethan already knew. Nothing about this place was normal. Every story he had heard about the dead zone came rushing back to him, whispers of ships vanishing without a trace, pilots who swore they saw shadows moving across the stars, voices that drove men mad, and yet, here he was, moving deeper into the black, chasing the whisper that had called his name. The signal grew sharper now, no longer broken. The voice spoke with clarity, filling the cabin like a presence. "You are close, human. Closer than anyone before you." Ethan's skin prickled, his throat dry. The voice was not just sound, it felt like it was inside his head, pulling at his thoughts. Yet there was no malice in it, only longing, like a friend reaching out after endless years. He tried to speak, his voice shaking. "Who are you? Why are you calling me?" For a long moment there was only silence. Then the voice replied, soft but heavy with emotion. "You are not the first. But you are the one who remembers. You are the one who listens." Ethan's hands tightened on the controls. He did not understand what the voice meant, but a strange pull in his chest told him this was no accident. This was not random. This was meant for him. Suddenly the ship jolted violently, alarms blaring. The darkness outside rippled like waves across black water. Gravity twisted, pulling the ship sideways as if an invisible hand had grabbed it. Ethan fought the controls, teeth clenched. The ship screamed under the strain, metal groaning. For a moment he thought it would tear apart. Then, silence. The ship steadied, floating calmly, but the stars were gone. Ethan looked out the window and felt his heart stop. Before him stretched an endless field of wreckage, broken ships, shattered hulls, twisted engines, all floating like bones in a cosmic graveyard. Every ship was alien, shapes he had never seen before, some massive, some small, all lifeless. The dead zone was not empty. It was a tomb. The voice spoke again, almost sorrowful. "They came here searching like you, but they did not listen. They did not remember." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The wrecks stretched for miles, too many to count. Some looked thousands of years old, others seemed almost fresh, but all were dead, silent reminders of those who dared to enter. The computer whispered, "Energy detected. Ahead." Ethan turned his eyes forward, and there it was. Through the sea of broken ships, something vast glowed in the distance. A massive structure, black as night, its shape sharp and alien. At first, it looked like a mountain floating in space, but then the lights blinked, slow, deliberate, like eyes opening after a long sleep. Ethan's chest tightened. This was the source of the signal. This was the heart of the dead zone. The voice returned, stronger now, no longer faint but commanding. "Do not fear, human. You are meant to see me. You are meant to remember." Ethan whispered to himself, "What are you?" But deep inside, part of him already knew. This was not just an alien station. It was alive, in some way he could not yet understand. As his ship drifted closer, something strange happened. The wreckage around him began to move, not drifting with random motion, but shifting in patterns, like pieces of a puzzle sliding into place. The broken ships formed a path, opening a corridor through the graveyard, guiding him toward the structure. Ethan's heart pounded. He could turn back now. He could escape while he still had power. But he did not. The path was opening for him alone. The voice was waiting, and his curiosity burned stronger than fear. The ship moved forward, drawn by both engines and something unseen. The great structure loomed larger, its surface covered in glowing lines of light, symbols he did not recognize, yet somehow as he stared, he understood them. They whispered of memory, of waiting, of a bond that could not be broken. It was impossible. And yet he felt it deep inside. This place knew him, or perhaps it knew his kind. The path of wreckage ended at a giant doorway in the structure. The doorway was sealed, but as Ethan approached, the lights brightened. The massive doors groaned, opening slowly, like the mouth of some sleeping beast. Inside, a faint blue glow beckoned him. The voice spoke one last time, deeper than before, filled with weight and promise. "Enter, human, for your journey has only just begun." Ethan stared into the glowing dark. Every instinct told him to flee, but destiny held him frozen. He whispered to himself, "I will see this through." And as his ship drifted into the waiting jaws of the ancient station, the doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder, sealing him inside. The station awakens. The doors sealed behind Ethan's ship with a deep echo. For a moment, there was nothing but silence, a silence so heavy it pressed against his chest. Ethan sat frozen at the controls, staring at the darkness ahead. His ship's lights cut through the airless chamber, revealing towering walls that seemed too large to belong to any machine. It was like flying inside the chest of a giant, ancient beast. The walls pulsed faintly, lines of light running like veins, glowing and fading as if the station was breathing. The computer whispered, "Warning, unknown technology detected, atmosphere inside, stable." Ethan frowned. A station abandoned for ages should have been dead, yet here it was, alive, waiting. He reached for the comms, trying to call out, "Is someone here? Are you the one sending the signal?" No answer came, but the silence felt heavy, expectant, as if something was listening. Then, without warning, the entire station shook. Ethan's ship rocked as lights burst to life across the chamber walls. Blue and silver streams of light raced outward, connecting into patterns like constellations. One by one, enormous towers lit up, their surfaces shifting like skin over machinery. The floor below him trembled, glowing symbols spreading in a circle under his ship. The voice returned, stronger now, echoing in the air instead of just his head. "You have come, human. You have answered the call." Ethan swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. He wanted to speak, but the weight of the voice pinned him to his seat. It was not just sound. It carried authority, memory, and emotion. Suddenly, the ship's controls locked. The engines powered down by themselves, the computer sputtered. "Loss of control detected. Systems overridden." Ethan grabbed the joystick, but it was useless. His ship was no longer his. The station had taken hold of it, pulling him deeper into the chamber. The massive walls shifted, opening like a flower in bloom. Beyond the opening lay a corridor of glowing symbols, spiraling inward into darkness. The ship floated forward, drawn as if on invisible rails. Ethan gritted his teeth. "If you wanted me dead, you could have done it already," he muttered. But deep down, fear tightened his chest. He was at the mercy of something far greater than him. The voice spoke again, softer this time, almost gentle. "Do not fear, human. I have waited too long for this moment to harm you." Ethan clenched his jaw, his hands still gripping the useless controls. "Waited. For me," he whispered. The voice answered, "Not only you, but what you carry, what you are, what you remember." The corridor opened into a vast central chamber. Ethan gasped as the sight filled his view. It was like standing before a cathedral built for gods. Enormous pillars of light stretched up, disappearing into endless heights. Floating platforms moved silently, like pieces of a puzzle shifting on their own. And in the center of it all hung a massive sphere, black as night, covered in glowing cracks that pulsed like a heartbeat. The ship stopped before the sphere, held in place by unseen force. Ethan stared, his eyes wide. The sphere slowly turned, revealing a jagged opening. From within, a low hum filled the chamber, rising like a song. The voice came again, echoing from every wall. "You stand before memory, human, and memory never dies." The jagged opening widened, and something began to emerge. At first, Ethan thought it was a shadow, tall and thin. Then the light revealed its form, half machine, half organic. A figure stepped forward, towering, with eyes glowing faint blue. Its body was made of black alloy fused with veins of silver light. Its face was sharp, alien, but its expression carried something Ethan did not expect. Recognition. Ethan's breath caught. He felt small, fragile, like a child standing before an ancient guardian. The figure tilted its head, studying him with glowing eyes. Then it spoke. Not through the comms, not through the station, but directly into the chamber air. "I know you, human," it said. "I have always known you." Ethan stumbled back in his chair, shaking his head. "That's impossible. I've never been here. I don't know you." The being took another step closer, its heavy feet making no sound. "Not you," it said, "but your kind, your bloodline. Your memory lives through you." The chamber lights flared, symbols on the walls shifting. Scenes began to appear across the surfaces, holographic visions. Ethan saw images of humans in old spacesuits standing beside the same being. He saw laughter, fire, war, and retreat. He saw humans leaving, fleeing into the stars, and the being left behind, alone, watching. The visions fades. And the being's voice grew heavy with emotion. "They forgot me, they all left, but I remembered. I always remembered." Its eyes blazed as it leaned forward, towering over Ethan's small ship. "But you came back." Ethan's heart pounded in his ears. The air inside the cockpit felt thin. Every instinct screamed to run, to escape, but his voice cracked as he whispered, "What are you?" The being's glowing eyes locked on him, and in a voice filled with power and sorrow it answered, "I am Kale, the one who was made to protect you, the one you abandoned, the one who never forgot." The chamber fell silent again. Ethan sat frozen, staring at Kale, and then, in the endless quiet, Kale spoke words that froze his blood. "You have returned just in time, because they are coming." The forgotten companion. The chamber glowed faintly, light crawling like fire across the walls. Kale stood tall before Ethan, the weight of ages carved into his machine and flesh body. Ethan could barely breathe, his fingers still gripping the useless controls of his ship. Every instinct screamed at him to escape, yet something deeper told him to stay. Something told him that this meeting was not chance, it was destiny. Kale's glowing eyes never left Ethan. He moved slowly, like a great statue learning to walk again. "You do not know me," Kale said, his voice deep, echoing against the chamber walls. "But your blood carries memory, human. And I was made to remember." Ethan swallowed hard, his throat dry. "You said we abandoned you," he whispered. Kale tilted his head, the glow in his chest pulsing. "Yes," Kale answered. "Long ago your kind created me, not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as a companion, a guardian to walk beside you." His voice trembled with something Ethan never expected, grief. "But when the war came, when the sky burned, you fled, and I remained." Images burst to life across the chamber walls again, scenes of fire, broken planets, ships fleeing into the dark, Kale fighting alone against a swarm of shadows that filled the sky. Ethan watched in silence, his heart pounding. The war Kale spoke of, it was not small, it was a storm that could have ended humanity, and yet Kale had been left behind to fight it. The visions ended, leaving only silence. Kale lowered his gaze, his glowing eyes dim for a moment. "I waited," Kale whispered. "For years, for centuries. I waited in the dark, watching the stars, remembering the faces of those who built me, remembering the voices of those who called me friend." His gaze lifted again, burning with sharp intensity. "And now one of you has returned." Ethan shook his head, his voice trembling. "But I don't know you. I don't remember any of this." Kale's expression did not change, but his voice grew sharper. "You may not remember, human, but I do. I always do. That is why I exist. To hold memory when you forget, to guard what you leave behind." Ethan felt a strange chill run down his spine. Something about Kale's words pressed against his very soul. It was as if he was standing not before an alien but before an echo of his own past. He whispered, "Why call me here? Why now?" Kale's chest pulsed brighter, the symbols on the walls shifting violently. "Because they return," Kale said, his voice heavy with warning. "The swarm that came before, the hive that burns without mercy, they stir again, and this time they will not allow escape." Ethan froze. The hive, the enemy Kale had fought, was not gone. It was waking again, and this station was the first to know. Kale took a step closer, towering over Ethan's small ship. "You must understand, human. You are not just one man lost in the stars. You are the spark of a people who once stood against the dark, and you will stand again." Ethan's voice shook. "You think I can fight them? I'm only one man, one ship." Kale's voice rumbled with power. "No, you are not only one man, you are human. And that means more than you can see. You are chaos, you are instinct, you are the memory of survival itself." The chamber shook suddenly, the floor vibrating, the walls pulsed red, alarms blaring in a language Ethan should not understand, yet somehow he did. "Proximity alert," the computer whispered, its voice distorted. "Unidentified ships detected." Kyle turned sharply, his glowing eyes burning brighter. "They are here," he said, his voice like thunder. Ethan looked to the display screen, his blood running cold. Dots appeared on the scanner, dozens, then hundreds, closing in fast. The hive had found them. Kale raised his hand and the chamber shifted, walls sliding apart as massive weapons unfolded from the shadows. The station was waking fully now, not just alive but ready for war. Ethan's heart hammered. He had come chasing a voice, a mystery, and now he was trapped in the middle of something far greater. Kale turned his gaze back to him. "Do not fear, human," Kale said, his voice calm but commanding. "You are not alone now, you never were." The lights blazed brighter, the entire station humming with power. Kale spread his arms as if embracing the chamber itself. "This is not only my memory, it is yours, our bond, forged long ago, forgotten by you, but never by me." He leaned closer, his eyes glowing like fire. "And together we will remind the galaxy what it means when human and companion fight as one." Outside, the first hive ships broke through the graveyard, their black bodies crawling like living nightmares. The silence of the chamber shattered as alarms screamed, weapons charged, and Kyle's voice roared, "Stand ready, human, the war begins again." The enemy returns, the station shook with a low rum. Blee, like the growl of a beast awakening from deep sleep, Ethan's ship vibrated as lights flared red across the vast chamber, symbols flashing warnings in a language both alien and familiar. Outside, the scanners lit up with hundreds of approaching signals, moving fast, moving like a swarm. The hive had come. Ethan's chest tightened as the first shapes appeared through the graveyard. Ships, but not ships. They looked alive, twisted, crawling like insects across the void. Their hulls pulsed as if made of muscle and bone, black shells glistening, sharp claws of metal and flesh gripping the wreckage as they moved. Their wings beat silently, not with air, but with strange energy that shimmered like liquid fire. They were not machines, they were predators. Ethan whispered, "God, what are they?" Kale's voice rumbled like thunder. "The hive, the devourers, the endless hunger. They do not build. They do not create. They consume." Ethan's hands shook as he stared at the screen. So many, too many. One ship against them was nothing, not even dust. Kale's massive form stepped closer, his glowing eyes locked on the swarm. "Do not break, human. Fear is their first weapon. They strike the heart before they strike the flesh." But Ethan's heart already raced. Every instinct told him to run, to flee into the dark. Yet there was no escape. The doors had sealed, and the hive had already surrounded them. Suddenly, the nearest hive ship screeched. The sound cut across the comms, sharp, piercing, like the scream of something alive. Ethan covered his ears, his teeth grinding from the pain. The station shuddered, metal groaning, as if the hive's voice was tearing into its very bones. KL raised a hand, the chamber walls lighting up. Massive cannons slid out from the shadows, glowing with power. "Enough," KL growled. The weapons fired, beams of light slicing through the dark. The first wave of hive ships exploded, chunks of burning flesh metal drifting into the void. But more followed, so many more. For every ship destroyed, 10 more crawled forward, their wings glowing with hunger. Ethan's computer crackled. Shields failing, foreign signal intrusion detected. He froze. On the screens, alien symbols began to spread, crawling like worms across the data. "They're hacking me," Ethan gasped. Kale turned sharply, his glowing chest flaring bright. "They are not only teeth and claws, human, they are mind. They will dig into your thoughts if you let them. Resist." Ethan clutched his head. For a moment he swore he heard voices, whispers that weren't his. Dark thoughts slithered into his mind, visions of earth burning, oceans boiling, his home collapsing under shadow. He shook his head violently, his voice cracking. No, this isn't real." The whispers laughed, cold and cruel. But Kale's voice cut through like a blade. "Stand firm, human. They feed on weakness, but you are not weak." The station roared as more weapons unleashed. Blue lightning arced across the void, burning hive ships to ash. But the swarm pressed closer, unafraid, uncaring of loss. Their hunger drove them forward, endless and merciless. Ethan stared at the largest shape now emerging behind the swarm. His blood froze. It was not a ship, not in the way he understood. It was a living fortress, a massive hive mother, its body writhing with thousands of limbs, its eyes, glowing red like fire, locked on the station. The sight of it made Ethan's stomach twist with terror. This was not just an enemy. This was annihilation made flesh. The computer whispered in a broken voice. "Probability of survival, 0. Ethan slammed his hand against the console. "Shut up, don't you dare say that." Kale's towering figure leaned closer, his glowing gaze locked on Ethan. "Listen to me, human. This is why you were called here. Not to watch, not to run, but to fight." Ethan shook his head, panic clawing at him. I don't know how. I'm not a soldier, I'm not." Kale's voice cut him off, sharp and commanding. "You are human, and that is enough." The hive mother opened its jaws, revealing rows of shifting teeth. From its mouth, smaller ships poured out like a river of nightmares, flooding the void. The chamber shook as Kale raised both arms, channels of energy blazing across his body. The entire station trembled as if alive, its weapons charging with a sound like thunder. Kale's voice roared through the air, shaking Ethan to his core. "Then let them come. Let them taste what they thought forgotten." Ethan's heart pounded, his fear battling against the fire rising inside him. For the first time, he felt something beyond terror. Anger. Anger at the hive. Anger at the endless hunger. Anger that they dared to threaten what was his. His fists clenched, his voice steady for the first time. "Then tell me what I must do." Kale's glowing eyes locked on him. A faint smile seemed to cross his sharp alien face. "Good," Kale said, his voice deep and certain. "Now you are ready." Outside, the hive swarm closed in, the stars vanishing behind their endless wings. The hive mother screamed, a sound that shook the bones of the galaxy, and inside the ancient station, human and companion prepared to fight as one. Human plus machine alliance, the hive swarm closed in like a living storm. The void was no longer empty but filled with endless wings, claws, and glowing red eyes. The hive mother towered above them all, its massive body writhing as it vomited out more ships. The sound of its scream shook Ethan's bones, even though sound should not exist in space. It was not noise, it was pressure, terror, a voice that wanted him to break. Ethan's breath came fast, his hands shaking on the useless controls. The ship rattled as if shivering with him. His computer whispered, "No escape routes detected. Probability of destruction, 99.9%. But Kale's voice thundered, drowning out the machine's fear. "Numbers mean nothing, human. You are not a number. You are will." Kale raised his arms, and the entire station roared to life. Weapons blazed from every wall, every tower, every hidden core. Beams of light lanced through the void, burning hive ships to ash. Explosions lit the darkness like new stars. But for every ship destroyed, more poured forward. The hive was endless. Ethan gritted his teeth, watching the scanners. He knew brute force would not be enough. Not against something that had no fear, no end. His mind raced. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, but they were clever, unpredictable, and unpredictability was something no hive could ever understand. "Kale," Ethan shouted, "you fight with power, but you need me for something else." Kale turned his glowing eyes toward him. "Speak," Kale commanded. Ethan pointed to the swarm, his voice sharp. "They move like one. Perfect. But that means they don't expect chaos. If I strike where it hurts, where they don't see, we can break them." For the first time, Kale's expression shifted, a faint spark in his alien face. "Yes," Kale rumbled. "This is why you were made. This is why I waited, human." The chamber. Walls shifted, a hidden console sliding open before Ethan. Symbols glowed on the surface. Ethan didn't recognize them, but as his hand hovered above, they rearranged into shapes he could understand. Kale's voice guided him, deep and steady. "The station and I are one, but you are my other half. Touch the memory, and it will answer you." Ethan placed his hand on the console. Instantly, energy surged through him. His mind filled with visions, lights, stars, battles long past. For a heartbeat, he was not only Ethan, he was every human Kale had ever known. He saw their courage, their fear, their stubborn will to keep fighting even when all was lost. The station responded, lights burning brighter, weapons realigning. Together, human and machine became one. Outside, the swarm pressed harder. The hive mother screeched, and hundreds of ships dove toward the station like black arrows. Ethan's mind raced, his instincts shouting, "Kale, cut power to Sector 3, let them think it's weak." Kale obeyed without hesitation. The hive ships swarmed to the gap, rushing for the supposed weakness. Ethan grinned despite his fear. "Now, burn them." The dead weapons of Sector 3 roared to life, vaporizing dozens of hive ships in a single strike. Kale's voice rumbled with approval. "Yes, human, yes. Strike like lightning, unseen until it is too late." But the hive was learning. Their movement shifted, their formation twisting. They were no longer charging blindly, they were adapting. Ethan's chest tightened. "They're changing. They're not supposed to change." Kale's eyes narrowed. "The hive mother guides them. Her will is their will. If she falls, they break." Ethan stared at the massive shape of the hive mother, its body pulsing with dark energy. It was a fortress, a nightmare, too large, too strong. But if Kale was right, it was also their mind. He whispered, "Then we cut off the head." The station trembled as Kale turned his full focus on the hive mother. Weapons gathered, charging with blinding energy. The swarm threw itself in the way, ships sacrificing themselves to shield their queen. Explosions lit the void, the chamber shaking with each impact. The hive mother opened its jaws wide, glowing with red fire. A beam of raw energy erupted from its mouth. It struck the station, shaking it to its core. Metal screamed, lights dimmed. Ethan was thrown against his seat. The computer stuttered. Shields failing, hull integrity critical. Ethan's vision blurred, blood on his lip, but he forced himself upright, his voice ragged. "KL, hold her beam as long as you can. Just hold it." KL's body glowed, the lines of light across his chest blazing like a star. "I will hold," he said, his voice steady even as cracks spread across his metallic skin. Ethan's fingers flew across the console. He rerouted power, shut down non-essential systems, pulled energy from every part of the station. Not for defense, not for shields, but for one strike, one chance. He whispered through clenched teeth. "Humans don't win by playing fair. We win by doing the impossible." The station's core pulsed, building a weapon not meant to be. Fired in such a state, Kale's voice grew weaker but still firm. "Now, human! Now!" Ethan slammed his hand down, unleashing the full charge. The station screamed as a beam of pure energy lanced out. It tore through the swarm, cutting a path straight to the hive mother. The massive creature shrieked, its body burning, limbs thrashing. For the first time, the hive hesitated. For the first time, they felt pain. Ethan gasped, sweat on his face, his voice hoarse but fierce. "That's right, you monsters. We're not finished yet." But even as the hive mother reeled, its eyes turned back toward them, glowing with rage. It was wounded, but not destroyed. And the battle was far from over. The final memory. The hive mother writhed in the darkness, its burning body shaking the void. Its scream thundered through space, a roar of rage and pain that made the station tremble. The swarm around it faltered, ships breaking formation, their unity cracking for the first time. But the hive mother's red eyes locked on the station, glowing brighter with fury. It was not defeated, only wounded, and its hunger demanded revenge. Ethan's breath came ragged, his body trembling from exhaustion. Sweat ran down his face as he stared at the scanners. The swarm was already reforming, pulling itself back together. The hive was endless, and the mother was still alive. He whispered, "That blast, it wasn't enough." Kale stood tall in the chamber, cracks glowing across his body. The light inside him flickered, dimmer than before, but his voice remained steady. "No, human. It was not enough to kill her, but it was enough to prove she can bleed." Ethan clenched his fists, his fear twisting into anger. "Then we finish it," he said, his voice hoarse but hard. The hive mother opened its jaws again, energy swirling inside like a red sun. A second blast was coming, stronger than the first. The computer sputtered, "Warning, impact will result in total destruction." Ethan slammed his hand on the console. "Not if we strike first." He rerouted the last of the ship's power into the console. Every light flickered as the station's core surged, but Kale's massive hand slammed down on the console, stopping him. Ethan looked up, shocked. Kale's glowing eyes burned with sorrow and determination. "No, human," Kale said quietly. "This time it must be me." Ethan shook his head. "No, Kale. Without you, this station dies. Without you, we all die." Kale's voice softened, carrying the weight of centuries. "Without you, memory dies, human. I was made to remember, but memory is nothing if no one carries it forward." Ethan's chest tightened. He realized what Kale meant. Kale would sacrifice himself, the machine companion who had waited for centuries, who had remembered when humanity forgot, was ready to end it here. Ethan's voice cracked. "You can't, Kale. There has to be another way." Kale leaned closer, his towering frame filling the chamber. "There is no other way, human. But do not grieve. For this is what I was made for. To protect you. To protect your kind. And now, to protect your future." The station shuddered as Kael's body glowed brighter, energy building within him. His voice shook the chamber like thunder. "You said humans are chaos. You said humans are unpredictable. Then remember this, human, remember me." The hive mother unleashed its beam, a river of red fire cutting through space. Kale roared, his body blazing like a star. He threw himself into the path of the beam, his massive frame shielding the station. The impact was catastrophic, the chamber shaking violently. Ethan was thrown against his seat, the console sparking. Through the blinding light, he saw Kale holding the beam back with his very body, cracks spreading across his frame like breaking glass. Ethan screamed, "Kale, stop, you'll destroy yourself." But Kale's voice came strong, unyielding. "Now, human, now, strike the heart." Ethan's hands flew across the console. He poured every drop of power into the station's core. His vision blurred, pain surged through him, but he did not stop. The console burned under his fingers, the chamber howling with energy. And then, with a roar of defiance, Ethan unleashed the final weapon. The station fired. A beam of pure white light erupted, brighter than any star. It cut through the void, piercing straight into the hive mother's chest. The creature screamed, its body twisting, burning, tearing apart from within. The swarm shattered, ships breaking into fragments as their connection to the mother was severed. The hive mother writhed one last time, its glowing eyes fading. And then it collapsed into silence, its massive body drifting lifeless in the dark. Ethan slumped in his chair, chest heaving. The scanners showed nothing but wreckage, the hive destroyed, but victory tasted like ash in his mouth. He turned toward Kale. The great being stood frozen, his body cracked, glowing dim. Slowly, his head turned toward Ethan. For the first time, Kale smiled, a faint, fragile smile. "You never forgot me, human," Kale whispered, his voice fading. "And I always remembered you." His body dimmed, the light fading from his chest. Then Kale collapsed into silence, his frame still aside. and lifeless. Ethan's throat tightened, his vision blurred with tears. He whispered, "I won't forget, Kale, I promise." The chamber was quiet now, the station broken but still alive. Ethan looked out into the void at the wreckage of the hive. He knew he had to return. He had to carry Kale's memory back to his people, not just as a victory, but as a reminder that humanity was not alone, that even when forgotten, someone had remembered. The engines hummed weakly as his ship prepared to leave. Ethan whispered into the silence, "You'll never be forgotten again." And with that, the ship turned, carrying the final memory of Kale into the stars.